Alright, well, this one is gonna be tough. So, it's the end of the year, and it's a good time to reflect upon the past and where we'll be going in the future. And this tagged video that I got from Alex of TurboZone, I think it's the perfect thing to do for a last video for the end of the year. He wanted to get my top 10 favorite games of all time, so here's my list in no particular order. Number 10 is Metal Gear Solid 3. Pretty basic, was tempted to pick 2, but 3 had this cheesy 1960s spy film to it that I really always love coming back to. Even though I enjoyed MGS2's story a bit more, the camo system is great, but it's not perfect. But I feel like it helps bring an extra bit of strategy to the overall stealth mechanics. Plus, you can make Snake throw up in that game, so instant 10 out of 10. Number 9 is Mischief Makers. A bit of a no-brainer if you've looked at my channel. I'm not sure why I enjoy this game so much. It's a simple side-scrolling platformer, but adds a lot of variety to each level. One stage you're surfing a giant missile, and in another you fight a giant kaiju in a lava pit. Maybe it's because I played this in my formative years. I think I was 7 or 8 around the time I started playing it. As well as it having that same bombacity that a lot of anime had in the late 80s, early 90s. That caused it to just be one of my favorite games to come out in years. Alright, number 8 is Killer 7. Now this was especially tough because I wanted to put either the Silver Case or No More Heroes on the list, but since this was a lot of people's first taste of Suda51 style, including mine, it makes it all the more special to me. The plot is both nonsensical but also simple in retrospect. You play as 7 assassins out to stop creatures known as Heaven Smiles. Though the deeper subtext and allegories make this game something that has to be played to better experience. Alright, and number 7 is Sonic 3. As well as Sonic and Knuckles, but whatever. Probably one of my favorite games in the Genesis Sonic trilogy. Sonic 3 takes everything that worked well in the previous games and just cranks it up to 11. This is also one of the first Sonic games I beat as a kid. Now as a kid, you don't really have the best motor skills and you tend not to be able to beat a game before you're able to bring it back to the video store or Blockbuster or whatever. But this game is one of the few that I was just able to complete at that time. Also, Sonic and Knuckles is the best DLC before DLC was a thing. Alright, so number 6 is another no-brainer and a bit basic, but whatever. It's Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. Now this was my first this is my very first Zelda game. It's one that I always can go back to. The controls feel nice. The way Link swings his sword, it's just perfect. That's one of the main problems I have with the NES Zelda game. It's just Link's sword. Its thrusts are kind of tough to get used to. This game is just aged like fine wine. If you haven't played it yet, well, you're doing yourself a disservice. Alright, so number 5 is Super Mario World, another SNES classic. This is also another one of the few games I had the perseverance to beat as a kid. I loved Yoshi as a kid and I usually never did the sacrifice move because it always made me feel bad because I was basically killing him. But once again, this is another well-known classic. I wanted to go for something more obscure, but I don't know, this just kind of came up. Number 4 is Jet Grind Radio, a game that I vaguely played back in the day that I just recently was able to finally beat, pun intended. It's one of those examples of game with a great style, presentation, and some pretty good gameplay. Though it's not really perfect, I feel like the skating is kind of tug-of-war-ish, like you kind of had to fight with the controls a bit, but it wasn't so jank that it was broken. But yes, the music, the style, is just perfect. It's got that kind of late 90s, early 2000s hip hop that was very popular, and apparently was popular in Japan. So if you haven't played this game, give it a try. It's on Steam. Unfortunately, the reimagining, I guess, future that was on the Xbox hasn't come out yet due to some licensing issues with Microsoft or something. I can't remember. All right, so number three. So number three is another Dreamcast game. It's a bit more controversial, but it's Sonic Adventure. This game, okay, it's not good, I know, but the nostalgia that it brings me is just unreal. Every time I see footage from this game or play it, I just get flung back to the late 90s, early aughts. It's a buggy mess, but it's my buggy mess. It's one of those games that just shows the ambition that you saw in the industry back in the day, even though it didn't end up that well. It didn't work out too well. Like I said before, it's a buggy mess, but it's alright. And number two is Tales of Symphonia for the GameCube. Now, I'm not the biggest RPG fan. I like some of the older Final Fantasies, the Mario RPGs, as well as the Earthbound series and its various clones that it produced. But why this game in particular? Well, I really like RPGs that go against the grain, be it story-wise or gameplay-wise, and Tales of Symphonia combines a lot of interesting gameplay mechanics, from the enemies on the overworld to the fighting game style combat. The story, though, is pretty subpar, the typical kill a false god with the power of friendship story, but the characters are so entertaining and each have relatable qualities that I can give the story a pass. And number one. Okay, so this one was really tough. I decided to go with Just Cause 2, just out of nowhere. It's one way to describe it. It's chaotic. You play as this government agent working to destabilize this country, so you can stop this dictator. And it's open world. You can travel with cars, planes, helicopters, you name it. But one of them, the more notable means of travel, is by the parachute that you can use your grappling hook to basically pull yourself around and just defy the laws of physics. It's ridiculous, especially once you get really used to the controls, what you can pull off. And I feel like, nowadays every game is doing open world, and most of the levels just feel lifeless and just kind of boring. Looking at you, Breath of the Wild. But this game, being nearly a decade old, is still just so much fun to mess around in, even if you're not really doing any of the missions. Alright, and that was my final video for 2021. I don't even know what I'm gonna be doing for next year. I've been kind of on and off with creating videos. I've been dipping my toes in the lost media, and to varying degrees of success, but I don't know, maybe I'll just return back to my roots and talk about old YouTube or just YouTube stuff in general. I don't want to feel like I'll become like a drama channel or anything like that if I just start talking about random people online, because I just don't care about YouTube drama. I mean, I kind of do. Like, I'll go watch a video, and then after a while, I'll be like, okay, well, that was interesting, but I won't think about it for the rest of my day, and I just don't have the patience, or I don't know what's the word. I just don't have the drive to read hours and hours of, I don't know, DMs about what this guy said about this guy or this girl said about this girl. It's pointless at the end of the day. But who knows what I'll do in 2022. But whatever I do, I hope that you'll all stick with me. And until next time, have a happy new year and a good day.